The maid hid her bruised black eye behind makeup until the mafia boss ordered her to look at him. The concealer was a liar, and I was its accomplice. Its scent, a thick, chalky perfume, was the first thing I smelled every morning and the last thing I scrubbed off my skin every night. I layered it on with a damp sponge, patting and pressing, building a wall of beige pigment over the geography of my pain. This morning, the canvas was particularly damaged. A violent bloom of purple and yellow arched from my cheekbone to just under my left eye. The skin so tender that the soft sponge felt like sandpaper. Ryan had a temper like a cornered animal, and his apologies were always delivered with his fists. I was 23 years old, and I was a ghost. My name was Elena Maris, but I answered to Maid, girl, or, more often, the silence of being ignored. I was a live-in at the Vale Mansion, a sprawling fortress of gray stone and black-tinted glass that loomed over the gritty, industrial skyline of Brenlow. I finished the mask, blending the edges until the bruise was just a dull, puffy swelling, easily mistaken for allergies or a lack of sleep. I pulled my dark hair into a severe, low ponytail, the required uniform, and stared at the stranger in the mirror. She looked tired. She looked plain. She looked invisible. Perfect. I left my small attic room, my footsteps silent on the plush runner of the back staircase. The mansion was quiet at this hour, just the hum of the industrial refrigerators from the kitchen and the distant, rhythmic thwack, thwack, thwack of the head groundskeeper trimming the hedges. My job was to erase myself. I polished silver until it reflected a warped, funhouse version of my face. I folded linens that smelled of lavender and bleach, smoothing creases with the palm of my hand. I dusted shelves that held artifacts I was not allowed to look at too closely. I existed in the periphery, a shadow cleaning up after the gods who lived here, and the chief god was Dominic Vale. I had only seen him a handful of times in the 2 months I had worked here. He was 35, but he carried the weight of a much older man. He was the boss, the Don, the name whispered with fear and respect in every corner of Brenlow. He was cold, commanding, and moved with a panther's lethal grace. The staff, even Mrs. Petrov, the iron-fisted head housekeeper, straightened their spines when his car crunched onto the gravel driveway. He was returning today. The air in the mansion was charged with it, a low-level static of anticipation. Mrs. Petrov had us repolishing already gleaming surfaces. I was in the grand foyer, dusting the legs of a marble-topped console, when the massive front doors opened. The sudden influx of cold, damp air made me flinch. 2 men in dark suits entered first, their eyes scanning everything, their hands never far from their jackets. And then he came in. Dominic Vale was not a tall man, but he filled the space. He wore a black suit that looked like it was sewn from shadows, his white shirt a stark contrast. His black hair was cut short, severe. He was speaking to one of the suited men in a low voice, but I couldn't make out the words. He was coming off a tense negotiation. I'd heard the kitchen staff whisper. Rival gangs were pushing boundaries. I pressed myself back against the wall, my head bowed, my rag-filled hand clutching my apron. I focused on a spot on the marble floor, counting the veins in the stone. 1, 2, 3. He stopped. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought he could hear it. The air grew thick and cold. I could feel his attention on me, a physical weight, a pinprick on my skin. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, praying, "Please don't see me, please don't look, please just keep walking." I could smell his scent. It was not a cologne, but something clean and sharp, like cedar and winter air. After an eternity that was probably only 3 seconds, the heavy, measured footsteps continued, fading on the polished floor as he moved toward his study. I let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. It came out in a ragged, silent shudder. I waited until the study door clicked shut before I moved. My knees weak. I had survived. He had not noticed. My safety depended on being unnoticed. Ryan was still out there. He knew I had left, but he did not know where. The Vale Mansion, with its high walls and 24-hour security, was the most secure place I could be. But a job like this, working for a man like Dominic Vale, required absolute discretion. No drama, no baggage. A maid with a violent ex-boyfriend, a maid who brought trouble, would be a liability. And liabilities, in this house, were simply removed. The rest of the day was a study in tension. Every time a phone rang, my shoulders shot up to my ears. I would jump, dropping a spoon or a towel, earning a sharp glare from Mrs. Petrov, the sound of a door closing, a heavy footstep in the hall, a raised voice from behind a closed door. Each one was a trigger. Each one was Ryan, coming for me. I was folding fresh linens in the upstairs hallway, my arms aching from the repetitive motion, when I made a mistake. I was so focused on the crease of a pillowcase, so lost in the rhythm of the fold, that I did not hear the door to the West Wing study open. I rounded the corner, my arms full of white cotton, and walked directly into him. It was like hitting a wall of stone. I stumbled back, the linen spilling onto the carpet. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry, Mr. Vale, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you." My words tumbled out, a frantic, breathless apology. I dropped to my knees, gathering the fallen sheets, my head bowed low, my hair falling like a curtain to hide my face. He did not move. He just stood there, watching me. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll take these to be re-washed. I'm so sorry." I was babbling, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the cotton. "Maid?" His voice was low, rough, like gravel pressed through a sieve. It was not loud, but it cut through my panic and stopped me cold. I froze, still on my knees, my gaze fixed on the pristine black leather of his shoes. "Get up." I scrambled to my feet, clutching the bundle of linens to my chest like a shield. I kept my head down, my chin tucked. He was too close. I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Excuse me, Mr. Vale." I tried to sidestep him in the narrow hallway. He didn't move. He was a mountain. The silence stretched. It was terrifying. He was just looking. I could feel his gaze, intense and analytical, boring into the side of my head. He was looking at my face, at the side I tried to hide. I could feel the throb of the bruise under the layers of makeup, as if his stare was a physical touch. "What is your name?" he asked. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "Elena, sir, Elena Maris." "Look at me, Elena." It was the same tone Ryan used, the command that came before the pain. A cold spike of adrenaline shot through me. No, I could not. If I looked at him, he would see. He would really see. I have to get these to the laundry, sir. Mrs. Petrov is waiting." I tried to move again. He took a step, blocking me. He did not touch me. He did not have to. His sheer presence was a cage. He was close enough now that I could see the fine stitching on his suit jacket, the way his white cuff was perfectly square at his wrist. "Are you disobeying me?" There was no anger in his voice. It was worse. It was a simple statement of fact, a question of whether I was foolish enough to defy the laws of gravity. My throat closed. I could not speak. I could only shake my head, a tiny, jerky motion. "Then look at me." Slowly, fighting every instinct for self-preservation that screamed at me to stay hidden. I lifted my chin. I did not look at his eyes. I looked at the knot of his black silk tie. He said nothing, but I felt his gaze travel over my face, lingering on the swollen, puffy skin under my left eye. The makeup felt thin and useless, a child's watercolor paint. He knew. He saw it. I waited for the question, "What happened to you? Who did this?" It never came. After a long, agonizing moment, he simply said, "Be more careful where you are walking." He stepped aside. I fled. I did not run, but every muscle in my body was screaming to. I fled down the hall, the linens crushed against my chest, my heart feeling like it was going to burst from my throat. He knew, and he had said nothing. An hour later, Mrs. Petrov found me in the kitchen, scrubbing a pot with unnecessary force. "Elena," she said, her voice clipped. "Mr. Vale has requested that doctor. Alessi, see to you." The pot slipped from my hand and clattered into the stainless steel sink. Panic, cold and sharp, seized my lungs. "What? Why? I'm fine." "Doctor, Alessi is the house physician," she said, as if I were stupid. "He is here. Mr. Vale is concerned. He said you looked unwell." "I'm fine," I insisted, my voice rising in a way that was not allowed. I'm clumsy. I tripped on the back stairs yesterday. I hit my face on the banister. It's nothing. It's just a bruise." The lie felt clumsy and obvious on my tongue. "Mrs.?" Petrov's thin eyebrows rose. She looked at my face, her gaze lingering on the exact spot Dominic Vale's had. "A fall, I see. Regardless, Mr. Vale insists. The doctor is in the staff infirmary. Go now." "Please, Mrs. Petrov," I begged, hating the weakness in my voice. "There's no need. I'll just put some ice on it. It's truly nothing. I don't want to waste the doctor's time. Or Mr. Vale's." She stared at me for a long time. I was a problem. I was a loose thread in her perfectly woven tapestry. "Mr. Vale pays doctor. Alessi a great deal of money to be on call," she said coolly. "His time is not being wasted if the head of the house orders it used, but—" She sighed, a sound of pure exasperation. "The doctor cannot examine a patient who refuses. I will inform Mr. Vale that you declined the courtesy." She turned and left. I leaned against the counter, my body shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Decline the courtesy. I had refused an order. A quiet suggestion from Dominic Vale was a command for anyone else. I was going to be fired. I was going to be thrown out onto the street, where Ryan was waiting. The memory of his last threat hit me so hard I gasped for air. It was 3 months ago, the night I'd finally packed a bag while he was passed out, drunk, on the sofa of our tiny, grim apartment. He had woken up as I'd reached the door. He had grabbed me, his fingers digging into my arms, his face purple with rage. "You think you can just leave me, Elle?" he'd snarled, his breath hot and stale with whiskey. He'd slammed his hand against the wall, right next to my head, the plaster cracking. "You're mine. You hear me? You're mine, and you'll always be mine. You walk out that door, you try to hide from me, and you'll pay. I swear to God, you'll pay for making me look stupid. I will find you, and you will beg me to take you back." I had kneed him, hard, and run. I had run until my lungs burned, and I had not looked back. Until now. I spent the rest of the day waiting for the summons. "Mrs. Petrov needs to see you. Pack your things." It never came. No one spoke to me. No one mentioned the doctor. It was worse than being yelled at. It was the silence of a man biding his time. I learned later that Dominic Vale did not spend his time wondering. He acted. He had gone to his security room, a high-tech bunker in the basement of the mansion, and rewound the footage. He did not look for footage of me falling on the stairs. He already knew I was lying. He watched the footage from the exterior cameras. He watched me, at 11:30 at night, well after my shift, bundled in a thin coat, sneaking out the service entrance. He watched me carry a small, white plastic bag to the trash bins at the edge of the property, my head on a swivel, my body language tight with fear. He watched me look over my shoulder, again and again, at the dark, empty street. He watched me dump the bag and sprint back to the house, fumbling with my key card as if the devil himself were at my heels. He knew I was hiding something. He knew I was terrified. I knew none of this. All I knew was that I had to be more careful. That night, I could not sleep. My small attic room felt like a cage. Every creak of the old house was Ryan's footstep. Every gust of wind against the window was his hand, trying to get in. I slipped out of bed, my feet bare on the cold wooden floor. I did not know what I needed. I just could not be in that room. I crept down the back stairs, into the cavernous, silent kitchen. The moonlight was streaming in through the tall windows, painting the stainless steel counters in shades of silver and black. I went into the adjoining pantry. It was my favorite place in the house. It was dark, cool, and smelled of flour, dried herbs, and sugar. It was a small, windowless space, and it felt safe. I sank down to the floor, my back against a 50-pound bag of rice, and pulled my knees to my chest. And I cried. I cried for the pathetic, frightened girl I had become. I cried for the fact that I had no one, that I was trapped in a gilded cage, just as terrified as I had been in Ryan's prison. I cried silently, my hand clamped over my mouth, my shoulders shaking in the darkness. The door swung open. The light from the kitchen silhouetted a large, male figure. My heart stopped. My scream died in my throat. I could not breathe. I was trapped. "Who's in here?" The voice was Dominic Vale's. I could not speak. I was a rabbit, frozen in the headlights. He stepped inside. The door began to swing shut, plunging us into darkness for a beat before the automatic motion sensor light hummed on, flooding the small space with harsh, fluorescent light. I flinched, squinting, my face wet with tears, my nose running. I must have looked pathetic. He just stood there, his hands in the pockets of his dark trousers. He was not in his suit. He wore a simple black Henley that strained across his chest and shoulders. He had been in the kitchen getting a glass of water. I scrambled to wipe my face. "Mr. Vale, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't sleep. I didn't mean to." He did not move. He did not ask what was wrong. He just watched me, his expression completely unreadable. His eyes were dark, shadowed. He looked at me, huddled on the floor like a pile of rags, and he did not say a word. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief. It was not the pressed cotton one from his suit. This one was softer, dark gray, and looked like it had been in his pocket all day. He held it out. I stared at it. My hand was shaking. I did not want to take it. I did not want to take anything from him. It felt dangerous. He gave a small, impatient jerk of his chin. My hand darted out, my fingers brushing his as I took the cloth. His skin was warm. I snatched my hand back as if I'd been burned. I buried my face in the cloth, which smelled ridiculously of him. That same clean cedar scent. "Thank you," I whispered into the folds. He just nodded, a short, sharp dip of his chin. Then he turned, walked out of the pantry, and left me alone. He did not close the door. He left it open, the light from the kitchen spilling in, chasing the shadows away. I stayed there for a long time, clutching his handkerchief. The next morning, I felt like a raw nerve. The encounter in the pantry had left me even more unsettled. I had been caught at my weakest, and he had been gentle. No, not gentle. He had been neutral. His lack of reaction was more unnerving than anger would have been. I had to serve him coffee in his study at 9 a.m. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold the silver tray. I had washed and ironed his handkerchief and left it on Mrs. Petrov's desk, unable to face giving it back to him. I knocked on the heavy oak door. Enter. He was at his desk, a massive, gleaming expanse of dark wood. He was on the phone, speaking in Italian, his voice low and clipped. He gestured for me to put the coffee down. I moved to the side of his desk, my gaze fixed on the cup and saucer. I set it down, but my shaking hand betrayed me. A small amount of dark coffee splashed from the cup onto the pristine white saucer. I gasped, a tiny, horrified sound. "I'm sorry, Mr. Vale, I'm so sorry." I fumbled for the napkin on the tray, my fingers clumsy. I started scrubbing at the small spill, my head bowed low, my hair falling forward to hide my face. "Stop." I froze, and he was still on the phone, but his attention was entirely on me. "Lasciami lo gestiro," he said into the phone and hung up. The silence in the room was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the faint buzz of the computer on his desk, the ticking of the grand, ornate clock on the mantelpiece. "Look at me." There it was again, that same quiet command. My blood turned to ice. Ryan's voice echoed in my head. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." I could not do it. I stayed frozen, my head down, my hand still holding the napkin on the saucer. Elena. He knew my name. He had used it in the hallway, but it sounded different now. He had never used it before yesterday. It sounded possessive on his tongue. Final. I squeezed my eyes shut. I was shaking. The silence stretched, heavier this time, thick with his impatience. I could feel his stare on the top of my head. I will not ask you again. The words were spoken so softly. They were almost a whisper, but they held the promise of consequences I could not even imagine. Slowly, as if my vertebrae were grinding together, I lifted my head. I uncurled my neck, one painful inch at a time, until my gaze met his. His eyes were not brown, they were not black. They were the color of the Brenlow sky right before a violent thunderstorm. A deep, turbulent gray-green, rimmed with black. He was not looking at my eyes. He was looking into them, past the fear, past the lies. His gaze dropped, just for a second, to my left eye. The bruise was worse today. The swelling had gone down, but the color was a sickening, vibrant purple. My makeup, caked on in my panic, looked garish and pathetic under the sharp morning light of his study. It was the mask of a clown, a failed attempt at normalcy. I saw a flicker in his expression. It was not pity. Pity is soft. This was hard. This was cold. It was the flicker of a match in a dark room, illuminating something dangerous. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. He did not ask what happened. He did not ask who did it. He just looked. He saw the ugly, violent truth I had tried so hard to hide. And in that moment, as his storm-filled eyes stripped me bare, I felt more exposed than if I had been standing there naked. I had spent months, years, building a wall to hide behind, and he had just leveled it with a single, two-word command. My composure was shattered, but as I stared at the sudden, sharp tightening of his mouth and the new, hard light in his eyes, I realized something that terrified me even more. I had just broken his... That night, I dreamed of him. I dreamed of those eyes. I dreamed I was falling in the dark, and he caught me. But his hands were not gentle. They were cold, like steel, and they did not hold me. They possessed me. I woke up tangled in my sheets, my heart racing, ashamed of the strange, twisted comfort I had felt in the dream. I went to my small attic window, pushing aside the thin curtain. The sun was not yet up. Mist was rolling across the vast, manicured lawns, making the world look soft and gray. And then I saw it. Parked down the street, just beyond the iron gates of the estate, half hidden by a large oak tree, a beat-up, dark blue truck. I knew that truck. I knew the dent in the driver's side door. I knew the way one of the headlights was slightly askew. Ryan. He was here. He had found me. The truck was gone when I looked again. I spent the morning telling myself I had imagined it. It was a dark blue truck. Yes, but there were thousands of dark blue trucks in Brenlow. It was a trick of the mist, a phantom created by my own crippling fear. Ryan was not here. He did not know where I was. I was safe. But my body did not believe the lies my mind was selling. I was a live wire, humming with a terror so potent it made my teeth ache. Every sound was a gunshot, every shadow a man in my peripheral vision. I scrubbed, I polished, I dusted, my movements sharp and frantic. I broke a teacup in the kitchen, my hand simply refusing to hold it steady, and the resulting scolding from Mrs. Petrov was a distant buzz beneath the roaring in my ears. He had found me. The next day, Mrs. Petrov called me into her small, immaculate office just off the kitchen. "Elena," she said, not looking up from her ledger, "your duties are being changed." My stomach hollowed out. This was it. I was being fired. The broken teacup, the refusal of the doctor, the crying in the pantry. I was a liability. "Mrs. Petrov, You will no longer be on general rotation," she continued, cutting me off with a wave of her pen. "Mr. Vale has noted your efficiency. He requires a maid he can trust for the West Wing, his private study, the library, and the upper floor sitting rooms. These are his spaces. The other staff are not permitted there. You will be." I stood there, stunned into silence. This was not a dismissal. This was a promotion, a terrifying, unwanted promotion. "He insists on absolute discretion," she said, finally fixing me with her sharp, bird-like eyes. "You will see things, business papers. You will hear conversations. You will forget them the moment you leave the room. Am I clear?" "Yes, Mrs. Petrov. You will begin immediately. Your focus will be the study, Mr. Vale takes his coffee there at 9 a.m., and his water must be refreshed every hour. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not linger, and do not, under any circumstances, touch anything on his desk. Trust." The word was a joke. This was not about trust. It was about control. That moment in the study, when he had forced me to look at him, he had seen my terror, and in his world, terror was a weakness to be exploited. He was not protecting me. He was pulling my leash shorter, moving me from the large, open yard of the general mansion into the small, confined cage of his personal space. Now my invisibility was gone. I was under the tyrant's eye all day. My new duties were a special kind of torture. I would be in his study, dusting the spines of books that looked like they had not been touched in a century, and he would be at his desk, a silent, brooding presence. He would conduct his business on the phone, his voice a low, lethal murmur of English and Italian. He spoke of shipments and rivals and resolving disputes, and I would try to make the sound of my dust cloth disappear. He never acknowledged me, but I felt his gaze. I would be polishing the wood-paneled walls, and the hair on the back of my neck would stand up. I would turn, and he would be watching me. His gray-green eyes narrowed, his expression unreadable. He was a scientist, and I was the specimen under his microscope. I learned later that he had, in fact, tried to learn more about me. He had summoned Mrs. Petrov. "Tell me about Maris," he had ordered. "She's quiet. Mr. Vale, efficient, keeps to herself," the head housekeeper told him. Her history. She provided standard references from a catering company. They checked out. Her application stated she has a bachelor's degree, art history, I believe. A maid with an art history degree? She is overqualified, yes, but the pay is good, and she seemed to need the live-in position. She said she was new to Brenlow, had no local ties. Nothing else? She is a ghost, sir. She does her work, and she disappears. No friends, no phone calls that I know of. A perfect employee, in her way. A perfect ghost, but my past was not as dead as I had led them to believe. A few days into my new, nerve-shredding routine, the proof vibrated in the pocket of my apron. I was in the West Wing Library, a vast 2-story room that smelled of old paper and leather. Mr. Vale was out for the afternoon. I pulled my phone out, a missed call from an unknown number, and a voicemail. My blood ran cold. I never got calls. I ducked into the adjoining supply closet, my heart hammering. I pressed the phone to my ear, my hand shaking. His voice filled my head, a low, poisonous whisper. "Did you think I wouldn't find you? Elle, did you think you could hide in that big, fancy castle?" A dry, rasping laugh. I see you walking around like you're some big shot, but I know what you are. You're my girl." His voice hardened. "You can't hide in there forever, and when you come out... Oh, Elle, you're going to pay. You're going to pay for everything." The line clicked. I slid down the wall, my back hitting the shelves of cleaning supplies. I could not breathe. I was going to be sick. He was not just outside. He was watching. He had seen me. I deleted the message, my thumb trembling. My panic was a living thing, clawing its way up my throat. I worked the rest of the day in a fog, jumping at every noise, my skin crawling with the feeling of his eyes on me. I had to get out. I had to run again. But where? He would find me again. He would always find me. That evening, I was so consumed by my own fear that I made a critical error. My one off afternoon a week was the next day, and my desperation to feel normal, to just buy my own shampoo, overrode my common sense. I was at the service entrance, pulling on my thin coat, my mind racing with a plan to slip out, go to the store, and be back in 20 minutes. "Where are you going?" I spun around. Dominic Vale was standing at the end of the hall, his suit jacket off, his tie loosened. He had not been there a second ago. He moved with a disturbing silence. "Mr. Vale, I was just going to the corner store. We're out of toiletries." "Mrs. Petrov handles the household supplies." "It's personal, sir," I whispered, hating that I had to explain myself. He walked toward me, slowly, his footsteps echoing on the stone floor. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to look at him. "From now on, you do not leave the mansion grounds." I stared at him. "What?" "You will give a list of what you need to Mrs. Petrov. She will have it procured for you." A cold, defiant anger flickered through my fear. "I can't be a prisoner, sir. It's just one afternoon. I'm allowed to—" "You are not allowed to be stupid," he cut in, his voice sharp. "You are not to leave this property, alone." "You don't know anything about my situation," I snapped, then immediately bit my tongue. I had raised my voice. I had challenged him. His eyes went flat. "I know what I see. Elena, I see a girl who looks over her shoulder every 5 seconds. I see a girl who jumps when a door closes. I see the bruises you try to hide." He took a step closer. "And I see the truck that has been parked down the street for 2 days. This is not a negotiation. It is for your own safety." I was speechless. He had seen the truck. He knew. I can't," I whispered, the fight draining out of me. "I can't bring this trouble here. I should just go. I'll pack my things." "You will do no such thing," he said. "You will go upstairs to your room, and you will not leave this house." He did not wait for an answer. He turned and walked away, his orders hanging in the air like a death sentence. I was trapped. Ryan was outside, and Dominic was inside, and I did not know which one was more dangerous. That night, the sky broke open. Brenlo's storms were violent, angry things. The wind howled like a grieving animal, and the rain came down in horizontal sheets, lashing against the windows of my attic room. The old house groaned and creaked, and then, with a deafening crack of thunder that shook the very foundations, the power went out. The world plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. My breath hitched. The darkness was instant, total. And with it, the memories came. Ryan, his face flushed with whiskey, his eyes glittering. "You want to be disrespectful? You want to talk back to me?" He'd grabbed my arm, yanking me out of the kitchen. "We'll see how you like the dark. You'll learn to respect me." He had shoved me into the bedroom closet, the door slammed shut, the lock clicking. I had begged, I had pleaded, then I had pounded on the door until my knuckles were raw and bloody. But he had just turned up the television, his laughter a low rumble on the other side of the door. The smell of mothballs and his unwashed clothes, the claustrophobic press of the hanging coats. I had stayed in there for hours, my throat raw from screaming, until I finally slid to the floor, gasping and sobbing in the pitch black. Now, in the attic room, the walls were gone. I was back in the closet. I could not breathe. The air was too thick. The darkness was a physical weight, pressing down on me. I scrambled off the bed, my hands outstretched, and hit the wall. I whimpered a small animal sound and fumbled for a doorknob, a light switch, anything. My heart was going to explode. He had me. Ryan had me. He had found me and locked me in. My knees gave out. I crawled, my hands sliding along the floorboards until my back hit something solid, the leg of the bed. I wedged myself into the corner, between the bed frame and the wall, pulling my knees to my chest, my hands over my head. I was hyperventilating, my gasps tearing through the silence. I did not hear the door to my room open. I did not hear the footsteps. I only knew someone else was there when the beam of a powerful flashlight cut through the blackness. I screamed, a raw, terrified shriek. "Elena." It was his voice, Dominic. The flashlight beam moved away from my face, pointing at the ceiling, casting the room in a dim, indirect glow. I could see his silhouette, large and dark in the doorway. "The main breaker tripped," he said, his voice calm, pragmatic. He was stating a fact, as if I were not huddled on the floor like a lunatic. "The emergency lights will be on in a moment." I could not speak. I was shaking, my entire body convulsing with the leftover adrenaline. He did not move closer. He did not patronize me with, "It's okay," or "Calm down," and he just stood in the doorway, a solid, immovable object in the terrifying darkness. As if summoned by his words, the emergency lights in the hallway flickered on, casting a faint, pale green light into my room. The generator in the basement rumbled to life. He took a step inside. I flinched, pressing myself harder against the wall. He stopped. He watched me, his face half in shadow. I was a cornered animal, and he knew it. Slowly, as if not to startle me, he shrugged off his suit jacket. It was the one he had worn to dinner, a dark charcoal gray. He took the 3 steps to the bed, bent down, and laid the jacket over my shaking shoulders. His fingers did not touch me, but the wool was warm, and it carried his scent, cedar and winter air. He did not say anything. He just sat down on the edge of my small, narrow bed, his back to me. He did not try to comfort me. He did not try to talk to me. He just stayed. He sat there, a silent guardian, as the storm raged outside. He stayed until the main lights flickered back on, flooding the room with a sudden, harsh brightness. He stayed for 10 minutes after that, as my breathing slowly returned to normal and the violent shaking subsided into a fine tremor. Finally, he stood up. "I'll have Mrs. Petrov bring you a sedative." "No," I whispered, my voice raw. "No, I'm all right." He looked down at me, still huddled on the floor, wrapped in his jacket. His expression was impossible to read. "Go back to bed, Elena." He left, leaving the jacket. I crawled back under the covers, but I did not take it off. I clutched the lapels, buried my face in the wool, and breathed in his scent until the sun came up. The atmosphere in the house shifted after that. His protectiveness, which had once been subtle and controlling, was now a tangible, heavy blanket over everything I did. He did not order me to stay away from the windows. He simply had the groundskeepers plant tall, thick hedges along the service wing, obscuring the view from the street. The night after the storm, he found me in the kitchen. Long after my shift was over, I was staring at a cup of tea, my hands shaking too much to lift it. He came in, as silent as ever, and I jumped, sloshing the hot water onto my hand. I hissed, yanking it back. Without a word, he took the kettle, refilled it, and turned on the stove. He moved with a surprising, domestic efficiency. He found the chamomile, the honey, the mug. He made the tea, his large, scarred hands precise. He set the mug on the table in front of me. "Drink," he said. It was an order. I reached for it, but my hand was still trembling. His hand covered mine, steadying it. His skin was warm, slightly rough. It was not a gentle touch. It was a claiming. He held my hand against the warm porcelain of the mug. I flinched, a violent, full-body recoil, as if I had been burned. I snatched my hand back, my heart leaping into my throat. His eyes went cold, colder than I had ever seen them. It was a stark, Arctic chill. He did not look angry. He looked assessing. He watched me, his gaze dropping to my trembling hand, and I saw a new, dark understanding dawn on his face. He understood not just that I was afraid of a man. He understood that I was afraid of a man's touch. He did not apologize. He just tapped the mug. "Drink the tea, Elena." He knew, and he was not letting go. The next day, Dominic Vale made a call. He sat in his study, the door closed, and dialed a number he had not used in over a year. "Marco," he said, his voice low. "I have a name. Ryan Cade, Cade. He's in Brenlow. He's been bothering someone under my protection. Find out everything, where he eats, where he sleeps, what he breathes. Find out why he thinks he has the right to touch what is mine. And Marco, I want it handled. I knew nothing of this, of course. I only knew that the man I worked for was watching me with an intensity that was starting to feel less like suspicion and more like possession. I was exhausted. The fear of Ryan, the tension with Dominic, the nightmares, the storm. It had all culminated in 2 nights of 0 sleep. I was on autopilot, wandering the West Wing, his jacket still clutched in my hands. I had not given it back. I could not. It was a bizarre, tangible piece of safety. I found myself in the library. The leather couch was soft. The room was quiet. I sat down, just for a minute. I pulled the jacket over me like a blanket. I would just rest my eyes. I woke up hours later, in the pale gray light of dawn. I was curled on the couch, my face pressed into the collar of his jacket. I shot up, my heart pounding, mortified. I looked around. I was alone. I had slept in the library. I had slept on his couch, wrapped in his coat. I jumped up, folding the jacket, my face burning. I had to get back to my room before anyone... Good morning. His voice came from the shadows by the fireplace. He was sitting in a high-backed leather armchair, a glass of water in his hand. He had been there the whole time, watching me sleep. Mr. Vale, I gasped, clutching the jacket to my chest. I'm so sorry. I fell asleep. You were tired, he stated. He rose from the chair, a predator unfolding from the shadows. He had not slept. He was still in yesterday's clothes, his shirt rumpled, his jaw dark with stubble. He looked dangerous. I wanted to return this, I stammered, holding out the folded jacket. Thank you, sir, for the other night and the tea. My gaze was fixed on his collarbone. He did not take the jacket. He just looked at my face, at the way my hair was mussed from sleep, at the dark circles under my eyes. Sir? I pushed the jacket toward him. He reached out. I thought he was taking it, but his hand bypassed the coat. He brushed his fingers against mine, a deliberate, calculated touch. My breath hitched. I tried to pull my hand back, but he caught it. He did not grab it. He simply laced his fingers through mine. It was a light, almost gentle grip, but I knew, intrinsically, that I could not have broken it if I'd tried. My pulse was a frantic bird against his skin. He let his thumb stroke the back of my hand. Once. A slow, possessive gesture that sent a shock straight through me. It was not violent. It was not angry. It was something else entirely. Something I had no name for. Keep it, he said, his voice a low, rough rumble. I finally met his eyes. They were dark, intense, and fixed on my mouth. It looks better on you. He let my hand go. I stood there, my mind reeling, my skin tingling where he had touched me. I did not know what to do. I was a maid. He was the boss. But in that moment, in the gray light of dawn, those lines had blurred into something terrifying and new. I clutched the jacket and I fled the room. I spent the next 2 days in a state of controlled panic, both from his touch and from the threat outside. I was going stir-crazy. I was trapped. I had not been outside in days. Dominic's order was absolute. But the need to feel normal, to have some small piece of my old life, of my life, was becoming a physical ache. I had to get out, just for 10 minutes. It was my scheduled off afternoon. I knew Dominic was in a meeting across town. I knew his personal security detail was with him. I watched from the service window until the main gates closed behind his black sedan. This was my chance. My heart hammered against my ribs. This is stupid. This is so stupid. But my feet were already moving. I grabbed my purse, slipped out the service entrance, and walked, fast, down the long gravel drive. I did not run. Running would attract attention from the gate guards. I walked, head down, as if I had every right to be there. The guard buzzed me out without a second look. I was free. The air outside the gates felt different, lighter. I walked the 2 blocks to the local convenience store, my shoulders high with tension, but my spirit soaring. I was just a normal girl, buying shampoo. I went inside, grabbed a bottle of herbal essences and a chocolate bar. I paid the cashier, my hands shaking with exhilaration. I had done it. I pushed open the glass door and stepped out onto the sidewalk. A hand clamped over my mouth from behind, cutting off my scream, a calloused, dirty hand that smelled like sour whiskey and cigarettes. An arm like a steel band wrapped around my waist, yanking me backward, off my feet, and into the narrow, trash-filled alley beside the store. "Miss me? Elle?" Ryan's voice snarled in my ear. He slammed me against the brick wall, the impact knocking the air from my lungs. The shampoo and chocolate clattered to the pavement. "You look good," he hissed, his face inches from mine. His eyes were bloodshot, his face thinner, meaner. "Playing house with the rich folks. You think you're better than me now." "Ryan, please," I gasped, terror making my voice weak. "Please," he mimicked. "That's not what you said when you need me and ran out like a whore." He backhanded me. The force of the blow snapped my head to the side, the sound a sharp crack in the quiet alley. My lips split, and I tasted the immediate, metallic tang of blood. The pain, bright and sharp, cut through my fear, and with it came rage. I was not that girl in the closet anymore. He grabbed for me again, and I stomped down, hard on his foot, with the heel of my shoe. He howled, his grip loosening. I shoved him, hard, against the wall. "You don't touch me!" I screamed, my voice raw. I did not wait to see his reaction. I ran. I ran out of the alley, my feet pounding the pavement, my lungs on fire. I did not look back. I could hear him yelling, "You're dead, Elena, you're dead!" I ran the 2 blocks back to the mansion, my vision blurring with tears of pain and panic. I fumbled with the keypad at the gate, my bloody, shaking fingers slipping on the numbers. The gate buzzed open. I sprinted up the driveway, past the silent, disapproving hedges. I burst through the service entrance, sobbing, gasping for air, blood dripping from my chin onto the collar of my shirt. And I ran straight into a wall of muscle. I stumbled back, looking up. Dominic Vale was standing in the hallway, his suit jacket immaculate, his face a mask of cold, dark granite. His meeting had ended early. He'd been standing there, waiting for me. His eyes, those turbulent gray-green eyes, dropped from my face to the blood on my shirt, then back to my split, swelling lip. He did not move. He did not speak. He just looked. And I saw, in that moment, a cold, controlled fury that was 1,000 times more terrifying than Ryan's hot, chaotic rage. The silence in the hallway was a living thing, a cold, heavy presence that crushed the air from my lungs. Dominic Vale stood, his body a fortress of controlled stillness. He did not move. He did not speak. His eyes, those impossible storm-gray eyes, did not leave my face. They tracked with a terrifying, slow precision, from my split and swelling lip to the smear of blood on my collar, and then back up to my tear-filled eyes. I was shaking, my entire body convulsing with the aftermath of the alley, the sprint, the collision. The sobs were trapped in my throat, hot and sharp. My voice was a useless, reedy whisper. The instinct to hide, to lie, was so deeply ingrained it was automatic. I fell, sir, on the sidewalk. I tripped on the curb. I'm so clumsy. I'm so sorry. I got blood. Enough. The word was not loud. It was a blade, low and sharp, that cut through my pathetic lie and left me bleeding. He took a step. I flinched, stumbling back, my hand flying up to protect my face. His movement froze. His face, which had been a mask of cold granite, tightened. A muscle in his jaw jumped. He had seen it. He had seen the automatic, terrified gesture, and he understood exactly what it meant. He did not speak again. He simply took my arm. His grip was not violent. It was not like Ryan's bruising, grabbing hold. It was a band of steel, impersonal and absolute. He did not yank me. He simply turned and walked, and I was forced to follow, my feet stumbling to keep up. He did not take me to the kitchen. He did not take me to Mrs. Petrov. He marched me down the hall, through the grand foyer and into his study, the room I had just begun to clean. He kicked the door shut behind us with his heel. The thud of the heavy oak settling into its frame echoed like a gunshot. He released my arm, pushing me toward one of the leather armchairs that faced his desk. Sit. I sank into the chair, my legs giving out. He walked to a bar cart in the corner, poured a splash of amber liquid into a heavy glass, and threw a clean white bar towel at me. It landed in my lap. "Clean your face," he ordered. I fumbled with the towel, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I pressed it to my mouth, hissing as the linen touched the raw split in my lip. The tears I had been holding back finally broke free, hot and shameful, streaming down my cheeks, mixing with the blood. He stood by the window, his back to me, the glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. He was giving me a moment. Or perhaps he was just controlling the urge to put his fist through a wall. "He did this." It was a statement, not a question. I said nothing, just sobbed quietly into the towel. "I told you not to leave," he said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'll pack my things. I won't bring this trouble. I'm so sorry." "I am not interested in your apologies," he snapped, turning. He stalked across the room and stood over me. "I am interested in the truth. You have been lying to me since the day you arrived. You lied about the bruise. You lied about the fall on the stairs. You just lied to me in the hall. You will stop lying, now." He crouched down in front of me. It was not a gesture of comfort. It was an interrogation. He was too close, his presence overwhelming. He smelled of cedar and something sharp, like ozone from the storm. "Look at me." It was the third time he had given me that order. This one was final. I lifted my head, my eyes blurry, my face a mess of blood, tears, and ruined makeup. "Who is he?" I can't." "Wrong answer." His voice was dangerously quiet. "Who is he? Tell me his name, Elena, or I will find it myself, and I promise you, you will not like how I do it." The dam broke. The terror of the man in front of me was suddenly, inexplicably eclipsed by the terror of the man I had just escaped. It all came pouring out, a torrent of choked, fragmented words. "His name is Ryan," I gasped. "Ryan Cade. He's my ex-boyfriend. I left him. I ran 3 months ago." Dominic's face remained impassive, but his eyes darkened, the pupils dilating until they were almost black. "He hit me. He locked me in closets. He told me if I ever left, he'd find me. He'd make me pay. I didn't think he'd find me here. I swear, I didn't." I told him everything. I told him about the voicemail, the "I see you." I told him about the dark blue truck I had seen from my window. I told him about the alley, the feel of his hand over my mouth, the crack of his hand against my face. "I tried to fight," I whispered, the shame of it all choking me. "I ran. I just ran." I finished, my voice raw, and waited. I waited for him to call me stupid. I waited for him to tell me I was fired, to throw me out onto the street where Ryan was waiting. Dominic Vale said nothing for a long, agonizing minute. He just stared at me, his gaze analytical, as if he were memorizing every detail of my confession. Then, slowly, he rose to his full height. He looked down at me, a pathetic, weeping mess in his expensive leather chair. "He will never hurt you again." It was not a reassurance. It was not a comforting promise. It was a vow. It was a sentence, passed on a man he had never met, by a judge who had no mercy. He went to his desk and pressed a button on his intercom. "Send Alessi to my study, now." "No," I pleaded, trying to stand. "Mr. Vale, please, I don't need a doctor. It's just a lip. Please don't make a fuss." "You do not give orders here," he said, his voice flat. "And you do not tell me what you need. You will sit. You will be seen by the doctor. And you will not argue." Doctor. Alessi arrived, his face a perfect mask of professional discretion. He cleaned my lip and put 2 small, neat stitches in it. He looked at my wrist, which I had clearly sprained when Ryan shoved me against the wall, and wrapped it in a tensor bandage. Dominic stood by the window the entire time, his arms crossed, watching. He looked like a wolf guarding a trap. When the doctor left, Dominic turned to me. "Go to your room. Do not leave it." "But my shift, Mrs. Petrov." "I will handle Mrs. Petrov. I will handle everything. Go!" I fled. As soon as the study door clicked shut, Dominic made 2 calls. The first was to his head of security. "There is a man," he said, his voice pure ice. "His name is Ryan Cade. He just assaulted Elena on the street. He drives a dark blue truck. Dented. Find him. I want a 2-man team on her. Shadow detail only. She does not see them. She does not know. If Cade gets within 100 yards of her, you are authorized to remove him from the equation. Understood?" The second call was to Marco, his private investigator. "The name is Ryan Cade. I want everything, but I want his mother's name, his favorite bar, the last time he took a piss. I want to know why a low-life piece of trash from the docks thinks he can touch what belongs to me." I, of course, knew none of this. I only knew that I was a prisoner in my attic room. Mrs. Petrov sent a tray of food up, her expression tight with disapproval. I was unwell. She had been told. I was not to be disturbed. I was safe, and I was trapped. The nightmares were worse that night. The lockdown, the isolation, it all fed the old fears. I was back in the closet, the smell of mothballs and stale beer filling my lungs. The darkness was total. I was clawing at the door, my knuckles splitting, screaming his name, begging him to let me out. I woke up with a strangled cry, sitting bolt upright in bed. My room was dark, but not completely. Moonlight streamed in the window. My heart was a trapped bird, beating against my ribs so hard it hurt. The door opened. I screamed, scrambling back against the headboard, pulling the sheets up to my chin. "It's me." Dominic's voice. He stood in the doorway, a dark silhouette. He was not in a suit. He wore a simple black t-shirt and dark gray sweatpants, his feet bare on the wooden floor. He had been sleeping, or trying to. "I heard you," he said. He did not turn on the light. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice shaking. "A nightmare. I'm sorry I woke you." He did not answer. He walked into the room, his movements silent, and sat on the edge of my bed. My breath caught. This was not allowed. This was the most profound boundary violation yet. He was in my room. He was on my bed. I should have been terrified. Ryan would have come to my bed in a rage or in a drunken fog, and both were terrifying. Dominic just sat there, his back partially to me, looking at the way the moonlight painted the floor. "You are safe here, Elena," he said, his voice low. "I know," I whispered. He looked over his shoulder at me, and he looked at my face, at the small, dark stitches on my lip. He looked at my hand, where it clutched the sheet, and then at my other wrist, the one wrapped in the beige bandage. Slowly, as if he were approaching a feral animal, he reached out. He did not try to touch my face or my body. He gently, his fingers surprisingly warm, touched the bandaged wrist. His thumb brushed over the cloth. I did not flinch. I did not pull away. I just watched him, my heart doing a slow, painful roll in my chest. He looked at my wrist, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Then he looked up, his eyes finding mine in the darkness. "He'll never hurt you again," he whispered. It was the same promise he had made in the study, but it was different. The first had been a vow of violence. This was a promise of protection. It was soft. It was intimate. And as he sat there, a dangerous, powerful man sitting on my bed in the middle of the night, I felt something new, something I had not felt in years. It was a strange, illicit warmth that started in my stomach and spread outward. It was not fear. I looked at his hand, still resting near mine. I looked at the dark, masculine lines of his arm, the breadth of his shoulders in the moonlight. He was the most dangerous man I had ever met, and in that moment, I realized he was the only thing standing between me and the man I truly feared. This feeling, it was desire, twisted, confusing, and terrifying. But it was desire. He must have seen the change in my eyes. He must have seen the fear recede, replaced by something else. He held my gaze, and I saw his own darken. He was holding back, his control a tangible thing, a coiled spring in the darkness. He was afraid of scaring me, afraid of pushing me back into that dark, panicked place. My hand, the one that was not bandaged, moved. I did not even tell it to. It crept across the sheet, my fingers tentatively touching the back of his hand. His skin was warm. He inhaled a short, sharp breath. He turned his hand over and laced his fingers through mine. We just sat there for a full minute, our hands locked together. The silence was thick with unspoken things. He leaned in, just a fraction. His gaze dropped to my mouth, to the stitches he had ordered. I was not breathing. My lips parted. He was going to kiss me. I was going to let him. A sharp, sudden knock echoed from downstairs. "Boss," a man's voice, urgent. "Boss, we have a situation. It's about Cade." The spell shattered. Dominic's entire body tensed. He was the Dawn again. The intimacy was gone, replaced by a cold, lethal focus. He released my hand, stood up, and was at the door in 2 strides. "What?" His voice was a low growl. "Marco's team. They checked the ex's apartment. You need to see this." He looked back at me. One last hard glance. "Lock your door." Then he was gone, his bare feet silent on the stairs, leaving me alone, my hand still tingling, my heart a confusing mix of relief and disappointment. Downstairs, in his study, Dominic looked at the photos on his tablet. They had been taken 10 minutes ago. My old apartment, the door was off its hinges, kicked in. The cheap furniture was overturned, the sofa cushions slashed. But that was not what held his attention. In the middle of the floor, sitting upright, was a small, worn, stuffed bear. It had one button eye and a faded pink ribbon. It was my bear, the one I had hidden in the back of my closet, the only thing I had from my childhood. Its white fur was smeared with something dark and wet, blood. Dominic stared at the image, his face hardening into a mask of pure, cold rage. This was not a random ex. This was not a simple domestic dispute. This was a psychopath. This was an escalation. "He's not just a threat anymore," Dominic said, his voice dangerously quiet. "He's a problem. Titan security. I want Jace on her, not the 2-man team. Jace. Personally. She's not to be out of his line of sight, ever. Find Cade. I don't want him followed. I want him found." The next few days were strange. I was no longer confined to my room, but I was never alone. I would be polishing a table in the library, and I would catch a flicker of movement. Jace, Dominic's most trusted soldier, a tall, silent man with the eyes of a hawk, would be standing in the hallway. He never spoke to me. He was just there. My fear, which had been a constant, shrieking companion, was replaced by a strange, numb calm. Dominic had taken the problem. He had absorbed my terror and made it his own. And with that burden lifted, something in me began to unspool. One morning, Mrs. Petrov presented me with several large, elegant boxes. "Mr. Vale has updated your wardrobe. He does not wish for you to wear the uniform outside of your duties, and you are not to leave the grounds to purchase your own." Inside were not Maid's clothes. There were soft sweaters, dark jeans, and simple, elegant blouses. One was the color of a summer sky, a soft, pale blue. I put it on. I looked in the mirror. I did not see a ghost. I saw me. I saw Elena. I left my hair down. I put on a little mascara, but no heavy concealer. The bruise was gone, and my lip was healing. I went down to the kitchen, and one of the younger cooks, a boy named Leo, nearly dropped his whisk. "Wow, Elena, you look nice." I felt a strange, unfamiliar sensation. A small, rusty laugh escaped my lips. Dominic was walking by the kitchen entrance. He stopped. He watched me, a small, ghost of a smile on my face. He watched me laugh. His expression was one of profound confusion, as if I were a puzzle he could not solve. That evening, he found me in the library, reading one of the art history books I had been dusting. "Come with me," he said. My heart gave a familiar lurch. It was not an invitation. It was a command. I followed him out the large French doors, onto the stone terrace. The sun had just set, and the sky was a deep, bruised purple. The air was warm. He led me down a gravel path to a part of the garden I had never seen, a small, walled clearing with a stone bench and a fountain. It was prepared. There were 2 glasses and an open bottle of wine on the bench. Soft, low music was playing from speakers I could not see. Not classical, old jazz, a lonely, beautiful saxophone. I stared, speechless. "Sit, Elena," he said. He poured the wine, his large hand steady. He handed me a glass. What is this?" I whispered. "You've been unwell," he said, as if the word tasted strange in his mouth. "The air is good." He was awkward. This was not his world. This soft, romantic gesture. He was a man of shadows and sharp edges. This was a calculated attempt at something tenderness. He surprised me. He did not ask about Ryan. He asked about the book I was reading. He asked me about art. "Caravaggio," I said, my voice shy, finding its footing. I love his use of light and dark, tenebrism. It's like all the light is violent, like it's fighting the shadow." "Violent light," he mused, swirling the dark red wine in his glass. "I understand that." He looked at me, his eyes catching the last of the twilight. "He paints the truth." We sat for a long time, the music washing over us. The wine warmed me from the inside out. The song changed, a slow, brushing rhythm. He stood up and held out his hand. My breath caught. "Dance with me," he said. I'm not a good dancer, Mr. Vale." "Neither am I," he said, "and I told you to call me Dominic." My hand was shaking as I placed it in his. He pulled me to my feet, and then he pulled me closer. One hand settled on my waist, a firm, warm pressure that sent a jolt straight through me. The other held mine, his thumb resting on my pulse point. We moved slowly on the gravel. I was stiff, awkward, my body rigid with tension. "Relax, Mia Cara," he whispered, his voice a low rumble against my ear. He pulled me a fraction of an inch closer. My head, of its own accord, found the hollow of his shoulder. I could feel the hard muscle of his chest, hear the steady, slow thump, thump, thump of his heart. It was the most solid, safest thing I had ever felt. I closed my eyes. Just for a second, Mo. The song faded out. We stopped moving, but he did not let me go. I tilted my head back to look at him. His face was in shadow, but I could see the intensity in his eyes. He was looking at my mouth. This time I was not afraid. He leaned down, slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. I did not. I rose on my toes, my eyes open, my lips parting. This was it. And then I flinched. It was not him. It was a ghost. It was Ryan's face, his lips bruised and wet, his breath sour. I saw him just for a second, and my body reacted before my mind could. I turned my head, my shoulders tensing, a small, broken sound in my throat. "I can't," I whispered, ashamed. "I'm sorry, I can't." I waited for the anger, for the stupid girl. He did not get angry. He did not let me go. He just held me, his grip steady, until the tremor passed. He stepped back, his expression tight, but not with anger. It was controlled, patient. "I'll wait," he whispered. He lifted my hand, the one that was not bandaged. He turned it over, his gaze holding mine, and he pressed his lips to my knuckles. It was not a kiss. It was an oath, a brand. "Go inside, Elena," he said, his voice rough. "It's getting cold." I walked back to the house, my legs shaking, my knuckles tingling where his lips had been. I did not look back, but I could feel his eyes on me all the way to the door. That kiss, his lips on my knuckles. It was a promise that haunted me. For 2 days, the house was a fortress of silent, coiled tension. I went about my duties in the West Wing. Jace a constant, silent shadow in my periphery. Dominic was a ghost. He was locked in his study, his voice a low, angry rumble through the oak, or he was gone. His black sedan peeling out of the driveway with a violent crunch of gravel. I was living in the eye of a storm, a strange, breathless calm where I knew the walls were about to come crashing in. The calm broke on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my attic room, on my bed, reading one of the art books he had given me. My phone, which I now kept on me at all times, buzzed on the comforter. It was a text from an unknown number. My fingers, clumsy and cold, opened the message. It was a picture. My heart stopped. It just stopped. It was Dominic. He was walking from his car into a downtown restaurant, the one with the black awnings. The picture was taken from a distance, from a high window. It was clear, professional. And in the center of Dominic's chest, right over his heart, was a small, bright, digital red dot, a sniper's sight. Below the image, a single line of text. "Tell him to back off, or I pull the trigger." The phone slipped from my hand. I could not breathe. This was not Ryan, not my Ryan. My Ryan was a bully with his fists and a bottle. This was something else. This was professional. This was an execution. I did not scream. I did not cry. A cold, liquid terror I had never known, not even in the darkest closet, filled my veins. This was my fault. I had brought this angel of death to his door. I grabbed the phone and I ran. I ran down the attic stairs, my bare feet slapping the wood. I ran down the main hall, my hair flying. I did not knock on his study door. I burst in, slamming it open so hard it hit the wall. He was standing by his desk. Jace and 2 other men I did not recognize with him. They all turned, their hands instantly going to the weapons beneath their jackets. "Elena," Dominic's voice was a low warning. I did not care. I ran to him, my body shaking so violently I could barely stand. You have to look." I shoved the phone into his hand. He looked at the screen. I watched his face. For one brief, terrifying second, I saw it. I saw the mask crack. It was not fear. It was a rage so pure, so cold, it was inhuman. His eyes went black, the muscle in his jaw locked. Then the mask was back. He was the Dawn. He handed the phone to Jace. "Find the source. Now." "Boss," Jace's face was pale. "Now," Dominic bit out. The other men vanished from the room. "Mr. Vale, Dominic," I pleaded, grabbing his arm, my nails digging into the fine wool of his suit. You see what he can do? This isn't Ryan, this is you. He's threatening you." "He is a fly," Dominic said, his voice deceptively calm. He tried to pull his arm free, but I clung to him. "No," I cried, the tears finally coming. "He's not a fly. A fly doesn't have a sniper. A fly doesn't. This is my fault. I brought this to you. You have to send me away. Please, Dominic, let me go. Send me away where he can find me. Let him have me. Just so he leaves you alone. Please. He's going to kill you. Be quiet." "I won't be quiet." I was screaming now, hitting his chest with my free hand. "I don't care what happens to me. But I won't be the reason I won't." He grabbed my wrists. He did not grab them gently. His fingers were steel, and he held me, shaking, in front of him. His eyes burned into mine. "You don't run anymore, Elena." His voice was a low, rough command that vibrated through my entire body. "You don't hide, and you sure as hell don't get to decide who I let harm you. You are here. You stay with me." "But..." "The discussion is over." He released me, his anger so potent it was a physical heat in the room. "Go to your room. Jace will be outside your door." "I'm not a child, to be locked away." "You are a target," he corrected me, his voice pure ice. "And you are mine. Now go." I went. The tension in the mansion became unbearable. It was no longer a home. It was a military compound. Jace was a statue outside my door. I was not allowed to leave the attic floor. The house was silent, but it was the silence of a held breath. 2 days passed, 2 days of pacing my room, of being a prisoner, of staring at the phone, waiting for a gunshot, for a text, for the world to end. On the third night, Dominic came to my door. I was sitting on the floor, my back against the bed, when he entered. Jace nodded at him and remained at his post. Dominic did not look at me. He just stood in the doorway. "I'm going to the garage. I need the files from the sedan. You're coming with me." "Why?" I whispered. "You have Jace. You have men." "Because I'm tired of you cowering in this room," he said, his voice flat. "And because I don't let you out of my sight. Let's go." It was a test, I knew it. I stood up, my legs trembling, and followed him. We walked down the silent, shadowed hallways. The house was locked down. No other staff was visible. We took the service elevator down to the subterranean garage. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of concrete and gasoline. The vast space was filled with his collection of black, gleaming cars. It was to the ground, my body screaming to run, to hide, to go back to the attic. But he was walking. He was walking toward his car as if he didn't have a care in the world. So I walked. I put one foot in front of the other, my gaze fixed on the back of his head. He reached his black sedan, parked in the center of the garage. He unlocked it, opened the passenger door, and pulled a leather briefcase from the seat. And then it happened. From the far, dark corner of the garage, an engine roared to life. Headlights flashed on, blinding us, and a truck, not Ryan's, but a heavy, dark-paneled van, shot toward us. "Dominic!" I screamed. Time slowed down. Jace, who had been 20 feet behind us, was suddenly in motion, his gun drawn. "Boss, get down!" Dominic did not get down. He shoved me, hard, behind him. Shielding me with his own body, I stumbled, hitting the side of the sedan. He pulled his own weapon from the small of his back, a fluid, practiced motion. The van did not slow down. It was going to hit us. It was going to pin him to the car. Jace opened fire. 2, 3. 4 sharp cracks echoed in the concrete box. The van's windshield spiderwebbed. The van swerved, hard, scraping against a concrete pillar with a horrific shriek of metal. It did not stop. It accelerated up the ramp and disappeared into the night. Silence. The only sounds were the distant, fading peal of tires, the tink-tink-tink of a shell casing rolling on the floor, and my own ragged, gasping breaths. I was pressed against the car, my heart trying to escape my chest. Dominic did not move for a full 10 seconds. He stood, his back to me, his gun still raised, his body braced. "Jace," he said, his voice a low growl. "They're gone, boss. I don't know how they got in the gate." "Handle it." Dominic cut him off. He turned, his face a mask of stone, and holstered his weapon. And then he looked at me. I was shaking. I was not just scared, I was petrified. He had almost... that van. He had stood in front of me. He had used his body as a shield. He reached for me, his hand unsteady, not shaking but vibrating with a white-hot, contained adrenaline. "Did it hit you? Are you hurt?" "No," I whispered. You. He almost... His voice was a strangled, unfamiliar sound. He looked at me, his eyes black, his pupils blown wide. He was not seeing me. The maid. He was seeing what he almost lost. He almost touched you. He slammed his hand against the car, right next to my head. The metal groaned. I flinched, my eyes squeezing shut, my body cowering. "No," he whispered, his voice broken. "Elena, look at me." I opened my eyes. The rage was gone. His face was... it was raw. It was terror. He was terrified. He almost... His control snapped. He did not pin me. He did not grab me. He braced his hands on the car on either side of my head, caging me in. He leaned in, his forehead pressing against mine, his breath coming in harsh, ragged gasps. "You?" he whispered, as if the word was a curse. "You!" And then he kissed me. It was not the gentle, waiting kiss from the garden. It was not the chaste oath on my knuckles. This was a storm. This was a claiming. It was the raw, desperate, agonizing release of every second of tension since he had first seen my bruised eye. His mouth was on mine, hard and demanding. It was not a question. It was an answer. It was bruising and deep, and it was the most honest thing I had ever felt. His lips were firm, insistent, and I could taste the metallic tang of his adrenaline. My fear, my paralysis, it all just evaporated. It was burned away by a different kind of fire. My hands, which had been pressed flat against the car, came up. They did not push him away. I fisted them in his suit jacket and then in his hair, my fingers tangling in the thick, short silk. I pulled him closer. I kissed him back. I met his desperation with my own. I met his claim with a surrender that was its own kind of power. I was not a victim. I was not a maid. I was his. And in that moment, in that cold, dark garage, he was mine. He growled, a low, animal sound in his chest, and angled his head, deepening the kiss. His tongue brushed my lips, and I opened for him, a silent, needy gasp. It was a deluge, a drowning. It was everything I had been so terrified of, and it was the only thing in the world that made sense. He tore his mouth from mine, and we just panted, our foreheads pressed together, his hands still gripping the car beside my head. "You're mine," he rasped, his voice rough with an emotion I could not name. "Do you understand me, Elena? You are mine." I could only nod, my body trembling, my lips bruised and swollen from his. He stayed there for a long time, just breathing me in. Finally, his control began to settle. He pulled back, just enough to look at me. His eyes were still dark, but the manic energy was gone, replaced by a possessive, smoldering heat. His gaze dropped to my arm. I looked down. When he had shoved me, I had scraped my arm against the car's side mirror. A long, red abrasion was welling up, a new bruise already blooming on my elbow. He did not speak. He took my hand, laced his fingers through mine, and pulled me back toward the elevator. He took me to his suite. It was not my attic room. It was a vast space of dark wood, black leather and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He did not let go of my hand. He pulled me into the bathroom, a cavern of black marble and steel. He turned on the shower, the water hissing against the stone. He did not undress. He just looked at me. "You're shaking," he said. You almost died." "We're alive," he said, as if that were the only fact that mattered. He sat me down on the marble bench inside the massive, glass-walled shower. He left me fully clothed, my sneakers still on. He pulled a washcloth from a nearby shelf, soaked it in the hot water, and knelt in front of me. He was in his $1,000 suit, his hair a mess from my hands, his shoes on the wet marble floor, and he was kneeling at my feet. He gently, so gently, took my arm. His touch was a stark contrast to the violence of the kiss. It was reverent. It was sacred. He began to clean the scrape on my arm. His large, scarred hands were incredibly careful, dabbing at the raw skin. His movements slow, meticulous. He cleaned the blood away, his expression unreadable, his focus absolute. I started to cry, not from fear or pain. It was the intimacy. It was the overwhelming, crushing intimacy of this powerful, violent man kneeling at my feet, cleaning a scrape on my arm as if I were made of spun glass. Ryan had given me bruises. He had never, not once, tended to them. A tear dripped off my chin and landed on Dominic's hand. He froze, looked up at me, his eyes full of a raw, confused tenderness. "He treated you like you were nothing," he whispered, his voice thick. I nodded, unable to speak. He took my bandaged wrist, the one Ryan had sprained, and he kissed it, his lips pressing against the bandage. He looked at the healing stitches on my lip. "I will never," he said, his voice a raw oath, "let another man put his hands on you. Ever." He stayed there, kneeling, just holding my hands, letting the hot water steam up the glass around us, until I stopped shaking. The near attack changed everything. The mansion was no longer a safe house. It was a fortress under siege. Dominic's men had cornered Ryan in a dive bar on the east side. They could have ended it, but Dominic gave the order. Let him go. "Boss?" Jace had protested. "He's a puppet," Dominic had snarled, his rage a cold, controlled thing. "He's stupid, but he's not sniper stupid. He's working for someone. Let him go. Follow him. I want the puppet master." Jace did, and the strings all led to one place, the Severino crew. They were Dominic's oldest, most bitter rivals, a gang of snakes who had been trying to take his territory for a decade. Ryan, in his desperation for money or power, had sold himself to them. He had become their tool to get to Dominic. Through me. The news fractured Dominic's world. For the Severinos to get a sniper in place, for them to get a van into his private garage. The breach was not outside. It was inside. "There's a mole," Dominic said, his voice terrifyingly quiet. He was in his study. With Jace, I was in the hall, pretending to dust, my heart in my throat, in my house, in my family. Find them. The house became a place of whispers and side-eyed glances. The staff, who had once been a seamless, efficient team, was now a collection of suspects, misses. Petrov was short-tempered. The kitchen staff was silent. The trust was broken. And I was different. The girl who hid, who flinched, who cowered, had died in that garage. The kiss and the shower. They had reforged me. I was not brave, not yet, but I was no longer broken. I was in the main linen closet, gathering fresh towels for Dominic's bathroom. The door was ajar. I heard voices from the hallway, a hushed, frantic whisper. It was Sarah, one of the younger maids, the one who had always been kind to me. "I can't," she was whispering into her phone. "It's too dangerous. He never leaves her. Jace is everywhere. He's obsessed. Yes, he's in the West Wing, in his private suite. No, I can't get close. I told you. Severino was right. The girl is the key, but..." My blood turned to ice. The old Elena would have backed into the closet, hidden behind the towels, and prayed she was not discovered. I stepped out of the closet. "Sarah?" She spun around, her face white with guilt, the phone still pressed to her ear. "Elena, I was just..." "Who are you talking to?" I asked, my voice low, but it did not shake. My mother, she's sick." The lie was pathetic. "You said Severino," I stated. Her eyes went wide with panic. She lunged, not at me, but for the hallway. I stepped in her way. "You have to tell me?" "Oh, get out of my way, you stupid girl!" she shrieked. She shoved me, hard. She was stronger than she looked. I stumbled back, my bad wrist hitting the wall, and a jolt of pain shot up my arm. I cried out. She did not look back. She just ran, her footsteps pounding down the back staircase. I leaned against the wall, my heart hammering, my wrist throbbing. I was rattled, I was scared, but beneath the fear was a new, cold clarity. I did not run to my room. I did not hide. I ran to Dominic's study. I did not knock. I threw the door open. He was at his desk, Jace beside him, both of them looking at a map of the city. They both looked up, guns half drawn, their faces hard. "It's Sarah," I panted, my words tumbling out. "She's the mole. I heard her on the phone. She said Severino. She said I was the key. She pushed me and she ran." Dominic's face did not change, but his eyes, a cold, deadly pride lit them from within. Jace was already moving, his phone to his ear, his voice a low, clipped order. "Lock it down, all exits. Find Sarah, she's live." Jace was gone. I was left alone, in the study, with Dominic. I was breathing hard, my body trembling with the adrenaline of the confrontation. He did not speak. He just walked around his desk until he was standing in front of me. He looked at my face, at my wide, frightened eyes. He gently took my arm, the one I had been rubbing. He saw the new red mark on my wrist where I had hit the wall. He did not kiss my lips. He cupped my face, his large, warm hands holding me steady. He leaned down and pressed a long, firm kiss to my forehead. I closed my eyes, my hands coming up to rest on his chest. I could feel his heart, steady and strong beneath my palm. "You're not broken, Elena," he whispered against my skin. "You're brave." He held me like that for a long time. It was a promise. It was a benediction. The feeling of safety, of strength, lasted until the first light of dawn. It was shattered by a shout from the front gate, a guard's voice, raised in panic, over the intercom. Dominic and I went to the massive window in his suite. We looked down, past the lawn to the large white stone gates. My blood ran cold. Overnight, someone, Ryan Severino, had been there, in huge, dripping letters of scarlet spray paint, a message for the whole world to see. "She dies next." The red paint on the gates dripped like fresh blood in the morning light. "She dies next." Dominic did not speak. He did not curse. He did not move for a full 10 seconds. I stood beside him at the window, my body rigid, a cold, sharp dread stealing the air from my lungs. The house, which had become my fortress, suddenly felt like a tomb. When he finally moved, it was with a terrifying, contained violence. He turned, not to me, but to the intercom on his wall. "Jace, my office, now." He looked at me, his eyes flat, cold, and utterly void of the tenderness he had shown me. He was the Dawn. "Pack your things," he said. My heart plummeted. "What? You're sending me away?" It was what I had asked for, but now the thought of leaving, of facing Ryan alone, was a fresh terror. "You're not leaving the house," he said, his voice a low growl. "You're moving from the attic. You will stay in my suite. You will not leave this room without me or Jace. Am I understood?" I could only nod. He was not protecting me from the outside world anymore. He was putting me in the vault. Jace arrived, his face grim. Dominic gave his orders. "Strip the attic room. Bring her things here. No one, and I mean no one, sets foot on this floor without my personal authorization. The mole is still active. The threat is real. She's not to be left alone. Not for 1 second, and dakanem." And just like that, my world shrank to a single, vast, opulent room. His suite was a world away from my attic cell. It was all dark wood, black leather, and cool metal. A massive bed dominated one wall, and an entire side of the room was glass, offering a panoramic god's-eye view of Brenlow. It was beautiful, and it was a cage. The first night was an agony of tension. I had packed my few belongings, and Jace had carried them in. I had my blue sweater. I had my art books. I had his coat. The one he had given me in my room. The one I had slept with on the library couch. I held it now like a shield. He came in late, long after the sun had set. He had been in his study, the sound of his low, angry voice on the phone a constant rumble through the closed door. He looked exhausted, his tie gone, his jaw dark with stubble. He looked at me, huddled on a leather armchair, his coat in my lap. He looked at the massive empty bed and then back at me. "You can take the bed," he said, gesturing to it. "I'll take the couch." "No," I whispered. I can't. This is your room. I'll take the couch." "I am not," he said, his voice laced with an exhaustion so deep it sounded like rust. "Going to argue with you about soft surfaces? Elena, the bed is closer to the door. I sleep there. You sleep on the far side. That is the arrangement." He was not offering. He was stating a fact, the dawn, mapping out his territory. He was not sleeping with me. He was placing his body between me and the only entrance. I crept under the covers, the sheets cool and smelling faintly of him. It felt like sinking into a cloud. I stayed on the very edge of the mattress, my body rigid, my back to him. He turned off the lights, and the city's glow filled the room. I heard him strip off his shirt, the soft sound of his shoes hitting the floor. The bed dipped behind me. He was heavy, Solid. I could feel the heat radiating from him, even with a foot of empty space between us. I did not sleep. I lay there, my heart pounding, for hours listening to the sound of his breathing, deep and steady. He had fallen asleep almost instantly, as if his body had simply shut down from sheer willpower. Sometime in the deep, black hours of the morning, the nightmare came. Not the closet, the alley, Ryan's hand on my mouth, the crack of his fist, the spray-painted threat. She dies next. I woke up with a strangled gasp, my body bolting upright and "You're safe." His voice, low and thick with sleep, came from right beside me. I looked. I was not on my side of the bed anymore. In my sleep, in my terror, I had moved. I had burrowed. My back was pressed against his chest. His arm, heavy and warm, was draped over my waist, his hand resting on my stomach. I was wrapped around him, heartbeat to heartbeat. My entire body went rigid. I'm sorry," I stammered, trying to pull away. His arm tightened, not painfully, but possessively. He did not let me go. "Stop," he murmured, his voice a sleepy rumble against my hair. "It's just a nightmare. You're safe. Go back to sleep." He was warm, and he was so incredibly warm, and his hand on my stomach was not a threat. It was an anchor. It was the safest I had ever felt in my entire life. I did not pull away. I let my head sink back onto the pillow, and I let his presence, his heat, his sheer solidity, chase the ghosts away. I fell asleep in his arms. When I woke up, the sun was streaming in. He was gone. A note was on the pillow beside me. "Do not open the door." We fell into a strange, domestic rhythm. We were prisoners in that suite. He worked from the desk in the corner, his phone calls low and tense. I read my books on the couch. We ate our meals together, brought by Jace, the only person he trusted. And every night we went to bed. We started on our separate sides, and every morning I woke up in his arms. It was a subconscious migration, a seeking of heat and safety. We never spoke of it. It just was. The tension was a living thing. It was not just fear. It was this new, simmering heat between us. It was the brush of his hand as he passed me a coffee. It was the way his eyes would linger on my mouth when I was talking. It was the way my body now expected his. The way I felt cold and exposed until he came to bed and his arms settled around my waist. On the third night, he was standing at the window, looking at the city lights. He had been quiet all evening, his mood darker than usual. "What is it?" I asked, my voice soft. "Sarah," he said, his voice flat. "We found her, in the trunk of a car at the airport, the Severinos. They cut their loose ends." I flinched, my hand going to my mouth. "Oh, God." "She was a kid," he said, his back to me. "Stupid, scared. She had a brother who owed them money. They leveraged her, and then they disposed of her." He turned, his face a mask of cold, hard grief. "This is the world I live in, Elena. This is what happens when you trust the wrong people." "She betrayed you," I whispered. "Yes." His eyes met mine. "And it's not the first time." I walked toward him, my bare feet silent on the plush carpet. "What do you mean?" He looked at me, really looked at me, as if he were trying to decide if I could bear the weight of his truth. "I had a brother," he said, his voice low. "Mateo. He was younger than me. Stupid, like Sarah. He liked fast cars, faster women. He wasn't built for this life, but he was in it. He was my blood." He walked to the bar, poured a splash of whiskey, and looked at it. He was my underboss, my right hand. I trusted him with everything. 5 years ago, he made a bad deal. He tried to fix it himself. Behind my back, he got in deep with a rival. He started feeding them information, small things, at first. Shipping routes, safe house locations. He thought he could buy his way out. "Dominic, they didn't want his money," Dominic continued, his voice a rasp. "They wanted me. They set a trap. They used Mateo as the bait. I walked in, but I'm not my brother. I saw it. I saw the trap." He swallowed the whiskey in one harsh gulp. There was a disagreement, gunfire. When the smoke cleared, Matteo was on the floor. The man I trusted, my own blood, had tried to have me killed. Did he shoot at you? I whispered, horrified. No, Dominic said. He set the glass down with a heavy click. He took a bullet that was meant for me. He chose the wrong side. He made every wrong decision. And in the last second of his life, he did the one right thing. He died for me, after betraying me. He stared into the empty glass. That's when I became the man in the suit, the Don. I learned that day. Trust. Trust is a blade. You only give it to someone if you're willing to have them stick it in your back. I have not trusted anyone. Not really. Not until... His eyes lifted. They met mine. You... The word hung in the air between us. And you lied to me, he said, his voice not angry, just weary. You lied about the bruise. You hid him from me, just like Matteo. You were scared. You were trying to handle it. Dominic, I know. He walked toward me, his movements slow. I know. You are not him, but you. You are the first person I have let in. The first person I have. He struggled with the word. Cared about. In 5 years. And the Severinos. Ryan, they're using you to do the same thing. To get to me. To put a bullet in my back. He was standing in front of me now, his presence overwhelming. The pain in his eyes was so raw, so deep. It stole my breath. You're not him, I whispered, my hand coming up, of its own accord, to touch his face. My fingers brushed the rough stubble on his jaw. I am not Matteo. He flinched at my touch, his eyes closing as if the contact was painful. He leaned into my hand. I know, he breathed. He covered my hand with his, pressing my palm flat against his cheek. His skin was hot, his eyes opened, and the coldness was gone. The dawn was gone. All that was left was the man who had been betrayed, the man who was terrified. The air in the room was thick, charged. His gaze dropped to my mouth. I had not flinched from his touch. I was not afraid. Elena, he whispered. It was a question. It was a plea. I'm here, I whispered back. He leaned down, slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. He was giving me time to run, time to pull away. I did not. I rose on my toes, closing the last inch between us. His lips met mine. It was not the savage, desperate kiss from the garage. It was not the chaste oath on my knuckles. This was a drowning. It was slow and deep and heartbreakingly gentle. His mouth was soft, questioning. He was not taking. He was asking. I answered. I kissed him back, my free hand coming up to tangle in his hair, just as I had in the garage. But this time, it was not a desperate grab. It was a caress. He made a sound in his throat, a low groan of relief. His other arm came around my waist, pulling me tight against him. I was flush against his body. From my knees to my chest, I could feel the hard, steady beat of his heart against mine. He tore his mouth from mine and pressed it to my jaw, my temple, the pulse that hammered in my throat. Elena, he breathed, his voice rough. Mia cara. He kissed me again, and this time, it was deeper. This time, I tasted his loneliness, his control, and the desperate, banked fire he had kept hidden for so long. It was unmaking me. It was unmaking all the fear, all the pain Ryan had left. He was erasing the ghosts with the reverence of his touch. He lifted me, his arm sliding under my legs, and I wrapped my own around his neck. He carried me the few feet to the bed, as if I weighed nothing. He did not lay me down. He sat on the edge, cradling me in his lap, and just kissed me. He kissed me until I was breathless, until my body was a live wire, until the only thing in the world was the scent of his skin and the feel of his mouth. He pulled back, his forehead resting against mine. You are, he whispered, like nothing I have ever known. You are violent light. He had remembered. I am terrified. He breathed, his confession a shock, of what I feel, of what they will do to you, of what I will do to them. Don't be, I whispered. I kissed his chin, the rough stubble. Not of me, never of me. He laid me back on the pillows. I watched him as he moved, lighting 2, 3, 4 candles on the dresser, their soft, flickering glow chasing the harsh city light from the room. He turned off the lamps. He came back to me, his shadow large and protective. He did not rush. He was reverent. He sat on the bed and slowly, his hands almost shaking. He brushed the hair back from my face. "You are sure?" he asked. His voice was raw. "I'm sure," I said. His fingers went to the buttons of the blouse I was wearing. He undid them, one by one. His gaze locked on mine. He was not looking at my body. He was looking at my eyes, watching for any shadow of fear. There was none. He pushed the blouse off my shoulders, his hands warm on my skin. He leaned down, and he did not kiss my mouth. He pressed his lips to the faded, yellowing remains of the bruise on my cheekbone, the one I had worn when I first arrived. He was kissing the past. He was healing it. His hands were a slow, warm magic. They lingered, they caressed. He whispered promises against my skin, not in Italian, but in plain, raw English. "You are safe. I will never let you go. You are everything." He made love to me as if I were sacred. He was slow and deep and careful, as if he were trying to memorize every inch of me, and I was not a victim. I was not the broken girl, in his arms, in the candlelight. I was his. I was strong. I was found. I woke in the pre-dawn light, tangled in his limbs. His arm was a heavy, possessive bar across my waist. My head was on his chest, my ear over his heart. It was the deepest, most peaceful sleep of my life. I lay there just listening to him breathe. The ringing of the phone was a violation, a sharp, ugly sound that shattered the peace. Dominic was awake instantly. The man I was holding was gone. The dawn was back. He grabbed the phone from the nightstand. "What?" he growled. I watched his face. I watched the blood drain from it. I watched his eyes go from sleepy and soft to cold, black pits of rage. "Where?" he said. It was not a word. It was a spike of ice. He listened. "I'm coming, alone. If you so much as breathe on him, I will burn your entire family to the ground. You hear me? I am coming, alone." He hung up. He did not look at me. He was out of the bed in one violent motion, pulling on his pants, his shirt. "Dominic," I said, my voice shaking. "What is it? What's wrong?" "They have Luca." "Luca?" "My cousin," he snapped. "My aunt's boy. He's 15, Ryan, that animal. He grabbed him off the street. He's bait." "Bait? For you?" "He wants a trade," Dominic said, checking the clip on his gun, his hands steady. "Me for the boy." "Dominic, no, it's a trap. It's the same as Matteo. It's a trap." I was scrambling out of the bed, pulling the sheet with me. "Of course it's a trap," he roared, the sound echoing in the large room. He turned on me, his face a mask of such fury I stumbled back. "You think I don't know that? It's my family. It's my blood." I go, "Then I'm going with you." "You are going nowhere." He grabbed me by the shoulders, his fingers digging in. "You are going to stay in this room. Jace and 2 other men will be outside that door. You will not open it. You will not move. You will not breathe. This ends. Tonight, I end him, and I end Severino. But you will be safe." "Dominic, please, don't do this. Don't go alone." "This is not a discussion, Elena." His voice was dead. He kissed me. Once, a hard, bruising, desperate kiss. It tasted of fear and goodbye. Locked the door behind me. He was gone. I heard his voice in the hall, sharp and clipped. "She does not leave. I don't care if the building is on fire. You chain her to the bed if you have to. You keep her alive. That is your only job." The door clicked shut. I heard the lock engage from the outside. I was a prisoner. I paced the room, my heart a wild, panicked animal. I could not just sit here. He was walking into an ambush for me, because of me. I heard the guards outside, Jace's low rumble. "What? No idea where," Jace was saying. "The boss is going in dark. Severino's message, an old factory on the river. It's a slaughterhouse. It has to be an ambush. He's not thinking straight. It's the kid. It's Matteo all over again." My blood ran cold. A slaughterhouse. I had to get out. I looked around the room. The door was locked. The windows, they were floor to ceiling. They did not open. I was trapped. I ran to the door, pounding on it with my fists. Jace, let me out, please." Mrs. Vale, Elena, I can't." His voice was strained. "Orders?" "He's walking in to die. Jace, you know it. It's my fault. He's obsessed with me. He's not stable. He won't just kill Dominic. He'll torture him. Please, Jace, I'm the leverage. I'm the only one he really wants. I can't, Elena." "He will die," I screamed, my voice raw. "And it will be on you and me. Please, take me with you. Let me be the trade." There was a long, agonizing silence on the other side of the door. I heard him curse, low and vicious. "My job is to protect him. Jace," I pleaded, my forehead against the wood, "and my job is to protect you. Please, help me protect him." Another silence. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Jace stood there, his face carved from stone, his gun in his hand. "This is the single stupidest—" "There's no time," I said, pushing past him, barefoot, still in the shirt and pants I had slept in. "Let's go." The ride was a blur of rain-slicked streets. The old factory loomed out of the darkness, a skeleton of rusted steel and broken glass. Jace had 4 other men, all in black, all armed to the teeth. "You stay here," he ordered, grabbing my arm as I tried to get out of the SUV. "Jace, no." "Stay. We go in. We find the boss. We secure the package. You are the absolute last resort. Do you hear me?" He did not wait for an answer. He and his team melted into the shadows. I waited. 1 minute, 2. It was an eternity. And then I heard it. A single, muffled shout. It was Ryan's voice. "Where is she, Dom? You were supposed to come alone and bring the girl." My blood froze. He wanted them both. I heard Dominic's voice, low and cold. "Let the boy go. Ryan, this is between you and me." "It is between you and me," Ryan shrieked, his voice high and unstable. "You took her. You took what was mine. You think you can—" I did not wait. I got out of the car. I ran. I slipped in through a gap in the chain-link fence, my feet cutting on the gravel. The main factory floor was a cavern of shadows, lit by a single, swaying work light. I saw them. Dominic, standing in the center, his hands raised slightly. Luca, his cousin, was tied to a chair, a gag in his mouth, and Ryan, he was holding a gun, not to Luca, but to Dominic. He was shaking, his eyes wild. You come in here," Ryan screamed. "Like you're a king? You think you can just take—" "Let him go, Ryan," Dominic said, his voice calm, steady. "You know what she did?" Ryan laughed, a high, bubbling sound. "She begged, Dom. She used to beg me. Please, Ryan, I'm sorry, Ryan, and now she's with you." He was going to kill him. He was crazy. He was going to kill him. "Ryan!" I screamed. My voice echoed in the huge, dead space. All 3 of them turned. Ryan's face, it lit up, a grotesque, ecstatic smile. "Elena, baby, you came for me." "Let them go. Ryan," I said, walking slowly into the light, my hands up. "It's me you want. It's always been me. Let them go." Dominic's voice was a warning, a desperate, terrified warning. "See?" Ryan laughed, his gun still on Dominic. "She loves me. She came—" He was distracted. His eyes were on me, full of that sick, possessive light. His gun wavered. Dominic moved. It was not at Ryan. It was at Luca. He launched himself at the chair, knocking it, and Luca, to the ground, shielding the boy with his own body. Ryan, startled, spun back. He aimed the gun. "No!" he shrieked. He was aiming at Dominic's back. I did not think. I did not plan. I ran. I threw myself, my body, between the muzzle of that gun and Dominic's back. The world exploded. A sound so loud it was white, a sudden, searing, white-hot fire in my arm. The force of it threw me to the concrete floor. I hit the ground, my head slamming against the pavement. The last thing I heard was chaos. Jace's voice, "Now, go, go, go." The roar of gunfire, not one gun, but a dozen, filled the warehouse, shouting, the shriek of metal. And then, his voice, a raw animal scream. "Elena!" Darkness. I came back to a world of motion. I was being carried. Strong arms were wrapped around me, holding me against a hard chest. My arm was on fire. "I've got you." Dominic's voice was in my ear, a raw, broken whisper. "I've got you. Just stay with me. Stay with me, Elena. Open your eyes, look at me." I forced my eyes open. We were in the back of the SUV, speeding through the night. He was holding me in his lap, his hand pressed hard against my upper arm. His hand and his suit jacket were soaked in blood, my blood. I whispered, my lip numb. "You're okay." His face. I had never seen such devastation. He was not the Don. He was not the lover. He was a man in hell. He was pressing his forehead to mine, his eyes squeezed shut, his body trembling. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do that? You stupid, brave Pazza. Why?" I breathed. I couldn't let him. He held me, rocking, as the car tore through the city. We rode in silence for a long time, just forehead to forehead, his blood-soaked hand keeping me from bleeding out. He finally pulled back, just enough to look at me, his storm-filled eyes unreadable in the flashing city lights. "He's gone," Jay said from the front seat. "He was hit, bad, but he slipped out in the chaos. Severino's men are down. Luca is safe." Dominic did not hear him. He was looking at me. "You're mine now," he said, his voice a raw, final, unbreakable vow. "I don't share what I protect. I don't let go." The world came back in beeps and whispers, a steady, rhythmic beep that matched the dull throb in my left arm, the sterile, antiseptic smell of a hospital. I opened my eyes. The light was dim, pearlescent. I was not in the mansion. I was in a private room, the walls a pale, calming blue. An IV line was taped to the back of my right hand. My left arm, from my shoulder to my elbow, was a thick white block of bandages. And he was there. Dominic was not in the bed. He was in a large leather armchair that looked like it had been brought in from his study, incongruous against the sterile hospital furniture. He was not sleeping. He was watching me. He had not shaved. The dark stubble on his jaw was almost a beard. His suit was gone, replaced by the simple black Henley and dark trousers he wore in the privacy of his suite. He looked wrecked. He looked like a man who had not slept in days, his eyes shadowed, his posture rigid with a tension that went beyond mere fatigue. "Elena," he said. His voice was a low, rough sound, as if he had swallowed gravel. I tried to sit up, but a jolt of pain shot through my arm, and I hissed, falling back against the pillows. "You're okay, Luca?" "Safe," he said, his voice flat. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "He's with his mother. He's fine. You are not." "It's just my arm," I whispered. His eyes closed for a moment. "It's not just your arm. Elena, the bullet. It grazed the bone. It grazed it. The doctor said an inch to the right." He could not finish. He stood up, his controls snapping, and walked to the window, his back to me. "How long?" 3 days, he said, his voice muffled. You've been in and out. The surgery, it took 4 hours. You lost a lot of blood. 3 days. He'd been in this room for 3 days. He had not left. He had not slept. He had just watched. Dominic, I said, my voice stronger. He turned. His face was a raw, unfiltered map of emotions I had never seen him display. There was rage. Yes, a cold, simmering fury, but beneath it was a bone-deep terror, and a guilt that was so profound it radiated from him in waves. You, he started, his voice thick. You jumped. You threw yourself in front of... You... He shook his head, unable to articulate the sheer, insane selflessness of it. He was going to shoot you in the back, I said, as if it were the simplest, most obvious fact in the world. I couldn't let him. Not after Matteo. I did not have to say it. The words hung in the air between us. He crossed the room in 2 strides. He did not touch me. He sat on the edge of the bed, his weight a comforting, solid presence. He just looked at me, his gaze tracing my face, my IV, the thick bandages on my arm. He'll never. He's gone. Dominic cut me off, his voice flat and dead. Ryan, he fled, wounded, Jace's men. They lost him in the warehouse district, but he won't be lost for long. He's bleeding. He's alone. And my men are everywhere. He reached out, his hand hesitating, as if he were afraid I would break. He gently, so gently, touched my uninjured hand. His fingers were warm, his skin rough against mine. You are never, he whispered, his voice a raw, final vow. To do that again. You are never to put yourself between me and a bullet. That is my job, not yours. Do you understand me? I looked at his tired, anguished eyes, and I saw the man who had sat on my bed in the dark, who had knelt in the shower, who had confessed his brother's betrayal. No, I whispered. His head snapped up. What? I won't promise that, I said, my voice finding a strength I did not know I possessed. I won't just stand by. Not anymore. I'm not just something you protect. Dominic, I am. He stared at me, a strange, new understanding dawning on his face. It was not anger. It was awe. He laced his fingers through mine. No, he said, a rough, broken sound. You're not, you are, Tutto, everything. He stayed. He did not leave my side. He bullied the nurses, demanded better food, and slept, finally in that ridiculous leather chair, his hand never leaving mine, not even in sleep. I would wake in the middle of the night, the dull throb in my arm a constant reminder, and I would see him, his head bowed, his large body crammed into a chair not meant for sleep, and my heart would ache with a feeling so powerful, so new, it eclipsed the pain. On the 5th day, Dr. Alessi, his face grim, discharged me. Dominic drove me back to the mansion himself, not in the back of the sedan. He put me in the front passenger seat, buckling me in as if I were made of porcelain. The red paint was gone from the gates. They were pristine, white, and welcoming. The house was quiet. Jace met us at the door, his expression relieved. She's fine, Jace, Dominic said, cutting off his questions. He slid one arm under my knees, the other around my back, and lifted me from the car. I can walk, I protested, my face flushing. I know, he said, and carried me inside. He did not take me to the attic. He did not take me to his suite. He took me to a large, beautiful bedroom on the 2nd floor, one I had never cleaned. It was full of light, the walls a soft cream, the furniture elegant and old. The bed was piled with pillows. You'll recover here, he said, laying me down gently. It's quieter. He meant it was safer. It was in the center of the house, with no direct access to the outside. For a week, I was an invalid, but I was not his prisoner. I was his center. He would spend hours in his study, the weight of his empire on his shoulders. And then he would come to my room. He would not speak of Ryan. He would not speak of the Severinos. He would sit on the edge of the bed and read to me, his voice a low, steady rumble. He read poetry. He read art history. He read, just to fill the silence, just to let me hear his voice. And at night he would climb into the bed, fully dressed, and lie on top of the covers, his body a warm, solid wall against my back. He would hold my hand until I fell asleep. On the 8th day, Jace came to the door. "Boss," he said, his voice low. Dominic, who had been half asleep in the chair, was instantly awake. "What?" "We found him." I sat up, my heart hammering. The pain in my arm was a dull ache, but this was a fresh, sharp fear. "A motel," Jace continued. "By the docks, the wound. It's bad. He's cornered. He's alone. He has no one left." Dominic stood. The air in the room grew cold. The man was gone. The dawn was here. "He's," I whispered. "Is he?" Dominic looked at me. His face was a mask of granite. "He is alive," he said. "For now." He turned to Jace. "Secure the location. No one in, no one out. Wait for me." Jace nodded and was gone. Dominic came to the bed. He looked down at me, his eyes unreadable. "This," he said, "this is my world. Elena, this is the part you were not meant to see." "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I am going to end the threat to you," he said, his voice flat, "permanently." I thought of the bloodied bear. I thought of his hand on my mouth in the alley. I thought of the red dot on Dominic's chest. I thought of the sound of the gun, the fire in my arm. I swallowed. "I want to come with you." He stared at me, his shock visible. "Elena, no, this is not a spectacle. This is a removal. You do not want to see this." "I don't want to see it," I said, my voice shaking, but firm. I need to be there. I need him to see me. I need him to see that I am not. I am not his. I am not afraid." He studied my face for a long time. He was looking for the broken girl, the one who flinched. She was not there. He nodded once. "Get dressed." The motel smelled of mildew, stale cigarettes, and despair. It was a rotting, 2-story block on a dead-end street. Dominic's men were everywhere, silent shadows in the rain, their presence a perimeter of death. Jace met us at the door of the room. "He's in there, boss. He's in a bad way." Dominic looked at me. "You are sure?" I took a breath. I nodded. Dominic pushed the door open. The room was pathetic. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, illuminating a room of profound filth. And Ryan. He was on the floor, his back against the peeling wallpaper, his leg propped up on a stained mattress. His jeans were soaked in dried, black blood. The gunshot wound from Jace was in his thigh, and it was bad. He was pale, his skin a grayish yellow, his eyes sunken and bright with fever. He looked up as we entered. He saw Dominic, and his face contorted in a snarl of pure hatred. And then he saw me. I was standing just behind Dominic, my good hand clutching his suit jacket. "Elle," Ryan breathed, his face. It broke. The anger vanished, replaced by a desperate, pathetic plea. "Elle, baby, you came, you brought him. Tell him. Elle, tell him to help me. I'm hurt. Baby, I'm hurt." I stepped out from behind Dominic. I stood in the middle of the room, my arm in its white sling, my face pale, but my eyes steady. "Tell him," Ryan pleaded, trying to push himself up, but hissing in pain. "He listens to you. I didn't mean it, Elle. I was crazy. Those Severino guys, they made me. You tried to kill him," I said, my voice quiet, but it cut through the room. "No," he cried. "No, I just wanted you back. I love you. Elle, I always—" "You don't know what that word means," I said. I looked at the man on the floor, the monster who had haunted my nightmares. He was not a monster. He was just a weak, pathetic, dying man. He had no power, he had no control. The fear, it was just gone. I looked at him, at the source of all my pain, and I felt nothing, just a vast, cold emptiness. Dominic had not moved. He was a statue of judgment by the door, watching me. "This ends," I said. Ryan's eyes went wide. No, please, don't let him. I'll go away. You'll never see me again. I swear on my... I turned to Dominic. His face was a mask. He was waiting. "He's yours, Elena," Dominic said, his voice low. "His fate. You decide. You tell me what you want, and I will make it happen. You want to watch? You want me to..." I looked back at Ryan, at his fever-bright, pleading eyes. The old Elena would have begged for his life. The new Elena. I started. "I don't want to watch." I looked at Dominic. I want to go home. I don't want to see him ever again." Dominic's expression softened, just a fraction. He nodded. He took my good arm, and he led me out of the room. He did not look back. I did not look back. I heard the door click shut behind us. I heard Jace's low voice. "Boss?" "Handle it," Dominic said, quietly. We walked to the car, the rain washing the grime from the air. I got in. I did not ask what "handle it" meant. I did not need to. Ryan Cade never returned. The threat was gone, but the rot inside the house remained. The second mole. 2 days later, Dominic summoned me to his study. When I entered, Jace was there, and another man, Marco, the private investigator. He was lean with clever eyes. And there was a third man, one I recognized, Antonio, one of Dominic's oldest, most trusted lieutenants, a man with graying hair who had always been at Dominic's side. He was not standing. He was on his knees. Dominic was behind his desk, his face a mask of thunder. "Elena," he said, "this is Antonio. You know him." "Yes, sir." "Antonio," Dominic continued, his voice pure ice, "is the one who gave the Severinos the garage codes. He's the one who took their money. He is the one who got Sarah killed. He is the one who let that sniper aim at my heart." I stared at Antonio, horrified. He was not looking at Dominic. He was looking at me. His face was not scared. It was full of hate. "It should have been me," Antonio spat, his voice rough. "Not him, not Jace, me. I was his brother. I was Mateo's." "Shut up," Jace snapped. "No," Antonio yelled. I gave him 20 years of my life, and he looks at her. He throws it all away for a maid, a broken..." "Enough!" Dominic roared. He stood, his shadow falling over the kneeling man. You were my brother's friend. I treated you as my own, and you, for jealousy, for money, you let them touch her." "She's a weakness," Antonio shrieked. She's going to get you killed, just like Mateo." Dominic's face was white with a rage so cold it was silent. He did not yell. He did not move. He just looked at Jace. "Expel him," he said. Antonio's face went slack with shock. "What? Expel? Dom? Boss? No, please, just kill me. You can't..." To be expelled was worse than death. It meant you were cast out. No name, no protection, no family. Every gang in the city, including the Severinos he had betrayed, would be hunting him. It was a sentence of a slow, terrifying death. "Get him out of my sight," Dominic said. Jace hauled the weeping, begging man to his feet and dragged him from the room. Dominic sank into his chair, his head in his hands. The silence in the room was heavy. I walked to him. I put my good hand on his shoulder. He did not move, but he covered my hand with his. "It's over," I whispered. It's all over." He looked up at me, his eyes filled with a profound, weary sadness. "It is," he said. The next few weeks were quiet. The house, It began to breathe again. The fear was gone. My arm healed, the sling came off, leaving a long, puckered, angry red scar on my upper arm, a reminder. But I was restless. The ghosts were gone, but their shadows remained. "Where do you want to go?" Dominic asked me one morning. I hesitated. "I want to go back." "Back?" "To my old neighborhood, my old apartment. I need to see it." He did not question me. He just nodded. "I'll take you." He did not take his black sedan. We took a simple, anonymous gray car. He drove. No guards, no Jace, just us. The neighborhood looked smaller, grittier, sadder. The building looked pathetic. "Wait here," I said. "Elena." "Please, I have to do this alone." He watched me, his jaw tight, but he nodded. I walked into the building, my footsteps echoing in the grim, silent hallway. I walked up to my old door. It was new, the wood unpainted, the lock shiny. The bloodied bear was gone. The slashed furniture was gone. It was just an empty, sad little box. I stood there for a long time. I was waiting to feel something. Fear, sadness, anger. I felt nothing. It was just a place. It had no more power over me. I walked back out into the sunshine and got in the car. Dominic looked at my face. "Are you—" "I'm fine," I said, and I was. I'm free." I smiled, a real, actual smile. He started the car. "I have one more stop." He drove us to a part of the city I did not know, a quiet, leafy street of old brick warehouses that had been converted into lofts and galleries. He parked and led me to a simple black door. He pulled out a key. "What is this?" "For you," he said, and opened the door. I stepped inside. My breath caught. It was an art studio, a huge open space with a wall of north-facing windows that flooded the room with pure, clean light. It was empty, except for a large, professional-grade easel, a wooden chest, and a stool. I walked, stunned, to the chest. I opened it. It was full. Tubes of oil paint in every color I could imagine. Brushes, in sable and bristle, of every size. Knives, linseed oil, turpentine. A stack of fresh, white, stretched canvases. I could not speak. I turned to him, my eyes blurring. "You mentioned it," he said, his voice rough. He looked awkward, standing in the bright, paint-free room. "In the garden, Caravaggio. You used to paint a long time ago." He had remembered that one brief, shy conversation. He had remembered. I don't know what to say," I whispered, touching the tubes of paint. "Dominic, this is—" "It's yours," he said. "A key to this building, a key to the house. You—" He was struggling for the words. "You are not my prisoner, Elena. You are—" I did not let him finish. I crossed the room and I threw my good arm around his neck and I kissed him. I kissed him with all the gratitude, all the love, all the everything that I could not say. He held me, his hands buried in my hair, and kissed me back, his relief a tangible thing. That night I could not sleep, not from fear, from energy. I was alive. I slipped out of our bed. We were back in his suite, but it was not a prison. It was home. I went to my new studio. I did not turn on the lights. The moonlight was enough. I set up a canvas. I did not sketch. I just began. I mixed the paints. Payne's gray, titanium white, a touch of crimson. I painted the shadows. I painted the lines. I painted from memory. I painted him. I painted the man who had sat in my room in the dark. I painted the man who had knelt in the shower. I painted the warrior, the lover, the dawn. I was so lost in it, in the smell of the oil and the drag of the brush, that I did not hear him. "Violent light," his voice rumbled from right behind me. I jumped, a small gasp. He was standing there, shirtless, in just his dark sweatpants. The moonlight carved his body, the hard planes of his chest, the shadows of his muscles. He walked up behind me. He did not look at the painting. He looked at me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling my back flat against his bare chest. He rested his chin on my shoulder, his arms caging me, his warmth seeping into my skin. We stood there in silence for a long time. "It's you," I whispered. "I see that," he said, his voice thick. He turned me in his arms. He looked at my face, at the small smudge of gray paint on my cheek. "We need to talk," he said, his voice serious. My heart gave a small lurch. "Okay." "It's over," he said. "Ryan is gone. The Severinos are in disarray. Antonio is handled. You're safe. Truly safe." He took my hands, which means you have a choice. I brought you into this. I kept you here because I wanted you, because I need you, Elena. But that is not a life, not one you chose. "Dominic, what are you saying?" "I am saying," he said, his eyes holding mine, his pain raw, "that you are free. I have set up an account, enough money that you will never have to work again. I have a passport for you, a new name. If you want it, you can go anywhere. Paris, Rome. See the art you love. You can leave me. You can leave this life. You can be free." He was offering me the world. He was offering to break his own heart, to let me go, to prove that I was not just something he possessed. I looked at this man, this dangerous, cold, and utterly tender man. I looked at the life he was offering me, a life of quiet, of peace, of art. And I looked at him. "What if?" I whispered, my hand coming up to touch his heart, to feel the steady, strong beat beneath my palm. "What if I'm already free?" His breath hitched. "What if," I continued, "I don't want to go? What if rebuilding is not something I want to do alone? What if staying is the only choice I want?" "Elena," he breathed, his voice breaking, Don't say that for me. Say it for you." "I am," I said. I rose on my toes, and I kissed him. A soft, sure, and final kiss. "I'm staying with you." He did not kiss me back. He just held me. He crushed me against his chest, his face buried in my hair, his body trembling with the force of his relief. "You're sure?" he whispered. "I have never," I said, my voice muffled against his skin, "been more sure of anything." The sun was high. It was summer. The gardens were in full, defiant bloom, a riot of reds and yellows and purples. I pushed open the heavy French doors, the warm air, sweet with the scent of roses, washing over my face. I was not wearing my old uniform. I was not wearing my new, expensive clothes. I was in a simple yellow summer dress. My hair was down, curling in the humidity. And on my face, there was nothing. No concealer, no mascara, no mask. The scar on my arm was a pale silver line against my skin. It was not ugly. It was just a part of me. I smiled, a real easy smile. My face turned up to the sun. I was not a ghost. I was not a maid. I was not a victim. I was Elena. A shadow fell over me. I did not flinch. I did not turn. A strong, warm arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me back against a solid, familiar body. Dominic stood beside me, his arm wrapped around me, his hand resting possessively on my hip. He was in a simple white linen shirt, his sleeves rolled up, the dawn nowhere to be seen. He was just my Dominic. He leaned down and kissed my temple. I looked up at him, my eyes clear, my smile wide. There was no fear left in them. Thank you so much for listening to our story. We truly hope you enjoyed it. We would love to hear from you. So please, drop a comment and let us know where in the world you are listening from. If you love this story, please consider subscribing to Mafia Romance Stories for more. And finally, share your thoughts in English. We read every comment, and we cannot wait to hear what you thought.